let's talk about ZMF. I've wanted to do this for a while, sort of a brand review. And if it does well, I'll do more brands. So let me know in the comments down below if you like it. I'm going to talk about some of the good stuff, some of the bad stuff, and everything in between. So stick around. I think that by far one of the most interesting things about ZMF is the build of their headphones. Of course, that's what a lot of people talk about. That's what a lot of people like, and for good reason. These have the moniker of one of a kind. And as far as all of their wood cups, that's technically correct. There is not another Caldera close that looks exactly like this one. That's kind of really cool, especially as you pay higher up in the price ladder. Now, to be completely honest, I think that this is both a good thing and a bad thing. I think that if you're buying into this to get something that looks really cool, like you see a friend's or you tried one at a show and it looks beautiful, you could potentially run the risk of yours not looking as cool. As a quick example, this side of this Bokeh looks, in my opinion, awesome. This side looks a little bit less awesome. Still nice, but it doesn't quite hold up to the other side. And maybe you like that, maybe you don't, but you do play a bit of a gamble, but that can come with some real upsides if you get a beautiful unit that just looks impeccable and beautiful. And that's something that separates ZMF from a lot of other brands, even other high-end brands like Abyss. It's kind of interesting because they have very different build philosophies where every Abyss headphone is going to be like pretty much exactly the same unless you get like a custom color or something. With ZMF, it's kind of the opposite. Every headphone is going to be basically one of a kind. And that is really cool. They also have some of the best ergonomics in the industry for the weight. Most of their headphones, pretty much all of them, are on the heavier side. Some of them are extremely heavy, like this Caldera closed. But their ergonomics and their fitment of the headband and the pads and stuff is just so good that a lot of times it doesn't really matter, especially if you don't have like a puny little neck. I've personally never really cared very much about weight at all, but I usually talk about it in my reviews because I see comments talking about heavy headphones all the time. Light headphones with good ergonomics are better for comfort than heavy headphones with good ergonomics. But I think that a light headphone with bad ergonomics is less comfortable than these headphones are because of their good ergonomics. There's also things like the quality of their headphone stands and their cases, which are some of the best in the industry. This headphone stand has some of the same unique one-of-a-kind moniker properties as their headphones, and to the right person, that's really cool. This is one of their lower end cases. They make some really nice, beautiful wood boxes for their headphones too. But even this case comes with like the, I don't know, like the type of feeling like a teddy bear would have on it. It's just really well made and really well thought out. And I appreciate that about their brand. Now, when it comes to the house sound, when it comes to ZMF, when it comes to their available sounds from their headphones, they also stand out. I think that they stand out because they offer a lot of very different stuff. In fact, on the table here, we have 4 vastly different headphones. Just as a quick example of how different they are, this one is really precise, super exacting, high amounts of detail. It's very present, very active treble. And right across the table, we have something that's kind of the opposite. It's slower, it's darker, it sounds more hollow, it sounds less active in a lot of regions. And right next to that, we have something in between. And you kind of see this again and again and again. And the cool part about this is that if you're looking into ZMF, oftentimes you can find the right ZMF for you. It may not be every ZMF, but you can find one in their line that will like align with what you like typically. This as a brand is something that I wish a lot of other brands would embrace more. For example, Headphone, who's kind of a competitor to these guys, especially in the high-end realm. They have a lot of the same for their sound signatures. And a lot of their headphones sound pretty similar with slight variances. The differences between headphones here is quite massive in some cases. Just as an example, I'm really not a huge fan of the Bokeh Open, but the Bokeh Closed is like my favorite closed back headphone at any price of all time, period, the end. And it just happens to be that that is the right headphone for me and that one is not. Now, while their headphones are very different, one of the things that I have noticed from kind of the overall approach to their sound is the mid-range quality. The mid-range timbre that they managed to squeeze out of these headphones is simply phenomenal, with the exception of the Bokeh Open, but almost every other ZMF I've tried, even the open ones, I love the mid-range that comes out of it. It just sounds exceedingly natural to me. And I think that one of the keys here is honestly the wood. There's a reason why musicians use wood instruments. They have a sound, they have a timbre, they have a resonance to them that sounds more natural, for lack of a better term. And I think that the wood plays a legitimate part in how these headphones sound It comes with some other negative properties too, depending on what you like. For example, if you need an ultra precise, super perfect measuring headphone, I don't think the headphone that I like the most is right for you. The Bokeh comes with a bit of audible like decay in the cups. You hear more added to the music than there actually should be for a perfectly flat reference. In my personal subjective opinion, this is awesome. For objective performance though, maybe not great, but that's a property of the design of the headphones and it's a property of the wood. And so like if you like kind of the harmonic addition from wood, this can be great. And I think that this really affects specifically voices. Humans are so attuned to how a voice sounds. And when something sounds artificial, we really notice. When it sounds natural, we are impressed, etc. And I'm sure there's also some tuning things that they're doing to make that happen kind of as a house sound type of thing. But I think a big part of this is the physical structure of the headphones being made primarily of wood. So what are some of the bad things? Even the most detailed ZMF headphone that I've heard, which is probably the Caldera Closed, is not that detailed compared to some of the best in the industry. Their overall like speed or apparent speed is just not quite up to the standard of what the fastest in the industry have. Things like DCA, Abyss, those sound extremely fast. Even some Headphone headphones sound faster than this does. And so if you're into speed and detail, this may not be for you. And I see the same picture kind of pop up with sound staging. Even their best sound staging headphones are not as wide as other players in the industry. When it comes to bass, it kind of depends. For the price, I actually consider the bass of both of these headphones, this one's sitting at $3,500 and this one's around $2,000. I consider the bass to be a little bit weak for what the price range is. However, on the flip side, I think that the Bokeh has one of the best bass deliveries I've ever heard, and this is one of their cheapest options. That comes to the other downside, is the price of their actual in-house headphones. They are exceedingly expensive. The lowest end one that is like fully built by them is $1,000. Now I know they have the T50RP mod, but I'm talking more about like a fully in-house headphone that is completely their own. And that leads me into something that I would like to see from ZMF. I have no idea if they want to go this direction. They might be perfectly happy being a more lower quantity kind of boutique company. But I think as they grow, I would really love to see them hit like a $400 price point for a headphone. I think that's an entry point where people can kind of stretch to that and get something that's really good without it being such a substantial purchase where they have like sticker shock even at the lowest end. You know, to a normal non-audiophile, buying $1,000 headphone is like basically a joke. Like it's just not even a consideration. But buying a $400 headphone that looks really cool and is made of wood and is more like an heirloom product, that's a little bit more attainable and like achievable and might be more desirable for some people. And I really think that that would kind of help spread the word of the brand offering a cheaper option. Now that comes with some major downsides. That could clog up their production line quite a bit. They're also going to have less kind of profit per unit, which is something that I'm sure they make a lot of profit per unit on these already. And maybe they just don't want that kind of company. That's perfectly cool. But I think that right now they have a lot of stuff between $1,000 and $4,000. And I would just like to see them kind of hit that, you know, $500 or even lower mark to be a little bit more accessible to, you know, people who would like to get into it, but just can't afford it. Hey, future Josh, I completely spaced this part, but it's very, very important. Another huge con is the pad swapping system sucks. I really hate it. I get that maybe it's more authentic doing it this way or whatever the heck is the reason why, but I really feel like they should switch over to a clip or preferably a magnetic clip-on system because like it's rough out here. Like each of these headphones I've swapped like 3 or 4 or even more sets of pads on each, and it's a frustrating and annoying process every single time. I really dislike it. The pad quality is excellent, but just how they're mounted is just really frustrating to change or swap. Please, I'm begging you, fix it. There's a couple extra things that I want to talk about that don't really have any necessarily conclusions or anything like that, just kind of interesting things that are on my mind. One of them is the fan base. They have deservedly one of the most dedicated fan bases out there. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they do tailor to so many different preferences for sound. They have a lot of options. They also come out with like stabilized versions and really unique cup variations of a lot of their headphones. And for me, like you know, I've kind of been waiting for like a good drop of the stabilized version of the Bokeh to pick that up. You know, and that kind of excitement doesn't really exist with other products. I also think that they're DIY friendly, and that's like a kind of a huge deal, especially when you're paying, you know, a lot of money for a headphone. And in general, they just have good customer service. And the figurehead of the company, Zach, pretty much no matter who I talk to, they've had a good experience with Zach, especially if they've met him. I've talked to him a bit, and he's really nice, and he's not pushy or salesy or weird or anything like that. And I think that goes a long way in this kind of environment. Now, my overall conclusion to this brand is really positive. You won't find me kind of talking bad about the brand as a whole. It's more just like specific models that I'll have an issue with. But then I try to be equally complimentary of the ones that I do like. And as of right now, I think that ZMF is a great brand to buy from. All right, I'll leave everything I recommend down below. See you later.